Embodying the goddess, creating rituals with mind, body, and spirit. How do we create living, embodied, intensely personal experiences of goddess spirituality? And how do we extend this new old tradition to others, trusting our own authority and creating those traditions and rituals and ceremonies? I'm Caryn MacGrandle with the Divine Feminine app, and here with me are Molly Remer of Brigids Grove, Lucy Pearce of Womancraft Publishing, Dionne Ruff-Sloan of Goddess Tea House, and Gina Martin, Triple Spiral of Dun Nashi. Welcome.
So welcome, everyone. One of the things that we find sometimes most powerful about walking a goddess-centered path is the way that these paths honor our bodies, our physical forms, and the wisdom that comes from within. So some traditions we may find in an encouragement to transcend the body or distance from the body, but on a goddess-centered path, we are here now in our bodies, and these bodies are sacred now. And so what I would like to do is offer you a body blessing. This is something that you can use in your personal life as you see fit, as a daily wake up ritual for yourself. And I invite you to participate in it with me now to whatever extent you feel comfortable. Oops. I wanted to acknowledge that when we are embodying the goddess, this is the idea that the sacred is as close to us as our next breath. It's as close to us as our heartbeats. The sacred is as close as our own fingertips. And so when we have that urge to connect, that urge to reach out, it's as close as our own bodies. So that is the spirit in which I offer this body blessing to you today. So please take part in it with me as you feel comfortable. So first, we're going to fold our hands in front of our hearts. Take a nice deep breath. Feel your palms warm as they're pressed together. Feel your heartbeat there in your fingertips. And lift your hands and kiss your fingertips gently. Lifting your hands to your face. Cradle your own face with love and appreciation. Here you are right now. And then moving one hand to the top of your head and one hand to your heart. Pausing and breathing deep again. Crossing your arms over your chest, one hand on each shoulder. You might rub your shoulders a little bit. Feel yourself there. We carry a lot in each day. So maybe give yourself a little appreciation for how much you carry. Give yourself a little hug, maybe sway back and forth. And then kiss your palms and lay them upon your belly. The center of you. Let them rest there gently, bringing some nourishment in. We often give a lot of nourishment out. Let's receive some in. And then another deep breath. And now gently rub your hands down your legs, your nice, strong, beautiful legs. Carry you so many places, do so much for you. Give them a little love and appreciation. And then if you can, depending on where you are, you might extend your legs, wiggle your toes. If you're standing up, just feel your feet on the earth, but wiggle those toes, your lovely, generous toes. We're going to bring our hands back to our hearts. Breathe deeply. And open your hands and gaze into them. Envision that you hold the day's potential nestled here in your cupped palms. All your hopes and dreams and seeds of wisdom right here in these cupped palms. What do you see there? What do you feel? Folding them back into prayer pose and bringing them to your lips. Take a moment to whisper what it is that you need to hear. And one more little kiss. And a moment to say thank you to your beautiful body for everything that it gives you each day and how you embody the goddess in the world. So thank you to your body.
Another way that we express our connection with the goddess is through dance. Dance has been found in prehistoric and current ceremonies. And so today in our circle, I invite you to stand as you are willing and able and join me in this dance. All right, my friends, so I invite you to just start to sway. If you are standing up, that's great. If you are sitting down, you just want to start to sway just a little. Yes, just allow your body to move. Just to that beat of music. Now, don't leave your arms out of that part. And if you have enough space, you might even start moving around your room. Yes. In this sacred space, nobody cares what you look like. Allow your body to really just express joy of being embodied. Yes, you cannot get this wrong. Your way to express your joy of movement is perfect. Now allow that joy to show in your face too. Don't leave your face out of it. Yes, and if you feel called, you might want to put a spin in it. That's cool too. Whatever feels right in your body right now. Yes. Your expression of joy to be in your body might look different than mine. And that's perfect. Yes. Lots of yes here, lots of permission. Permission to have fun. permission to enjoy your body. Now, when you hear them say, "We love you, beloved," bring your hands to your heart and bring it out. We love you, beloved. Yes. Allow some love to come in and go out. Yes. We're never leaving ourselves out of this. We're opening to receive and to give. Yes. Beautiful. Now just bring your hands to your heart. And just feel your heart beating here. We raised a little energy. Allow that energy to circulate throughout your entire body. That joy. And just give your body gratitude for allowing you to have the experience of being here, being in a body. And we are so grateful.
The goddess path is often referred to as the spiral path, so very different from the linear model of mainstream culture. From the moment of conception, we embody the energy and expression of the spiral. They are what connect our spiritual and physical selves. They are the shape of our DNA, the pattern of our first journey as we spiral down our mother's birth canal. We emerge from the womb, umbilical cord spiraling, pumping with life force, intimately connecting us to our mothers, just as the spiral connects us still to the Great Mother. They are the matrix that invisibly guides us. Matrix meaning pattern, matrix meaning mother. The spiral path leads us between the inner and outer realms. Spirals are our genesis. They have been with us since the beginning of human culture. Our first human carvings on stone, our first known instruments. The spiral holds a mystical connection, twisting and turning, contracting and expanding, inward, then outward. The spiral path teaches us surrender, flow, the magic of constant change. Spirals may be wonderful metaphors for our life journeys, but their template is real, tangible, biological. It is nature's blueprint of creation. From whirlpools to snail shells, tails and trunks, ferns and tendrils, seeds to storms. Spirals are all around us. They are how nature grows, evolves, and changes. You are made in the image of the goddess, of spirals within spirals. Look down at your hands, at your whirling fingerprints, and remember the magic that you are here now on this spinning earth with the dancing moon. This journey from nothing to nothing, spiraling through existence. Creativity and healing spiral and curl, seemingly repetitive, and yet each turn of the spiral is a little different, bringing us fresh experience and insight if we are open to it. The spiral is a powerful teacher which helps us align with the creative energy of the goddess. Mindfully creating a spiral is a fabulous activity to bring you back into awareness of your direct connection with the spiral path, the earth, and the goddess. I have made them from pebbles and shells, leaves, flowers and fruit, buttons and books, snow and sand, moss and ice. Whatever the season, spring, summer, fall or winter, use what is bountiful, what you have to hand. Whether you are 1 or 100 people, you can scale your vision to cover a whole beach or the back of one stone. In the woods, the park, your bedroom or the backyard. You can draw or paint, finger trace, walk or dance them. Let your spirals loose on the world.
After we have experienced this beautiful body blessing and the gift of movement and dance with joy, and after we have been given those beautiful images of spirals within our own cells, within the universe, we see how interconnected we are with all things. As Molly so beautifully put it, the divine along the goddess path is within, and simultaneously we acknowledge that the divine, source, creator, whatever name you use, is also vast, is also beyond us, and encompasses all things. So we're going to do a small working together to be able to connect our sacred bodies with the sacred information from the divine. It's always interesting to learn from other cultures how they made this connection. And we learn so much from cultures by understanding their language. The ancient Celts had 27 words for knowledge because knowledge was so important to them. All the different ways to receive it, from repetition, from learning from other scholars, from learning from the land that you live on. And there was one word about the knowledge, the wisdom that comes from the divine, from source. And that word is Farosna. Farosna. It's in the Old Irish. I'm sure there's even an earlier iteration of it, which has been lost in time. Farosna. So the ancient Celts had an understanding of the human body as containing centers of energy, much like we learn about chakras and other energy centers in other kinds of indigenous medicines. So we're going to work with these 3 centers of energy, these 3 cauldrons, the sacred cauldron that holds. And when we do this, I'm going to ask you to envision these cauldrons, to see what they're made of. Maybe they're made of stone or granite, crystal or light. I'm going to ask you to look at them and see what shape they're in and do whatever repair you need to do. And then together, if you wish, we're going to chant Farosna 4 times, calling in the wisdom of the divine to fill up these cauldrons. We're going to ask the divine to inform, infuse, fill us up with wisdom. So we're going to begin first with the bottommost cauldron. I want you to envision that in your own body as beginning just below your pelvis. So it encases the bottom of the pelvic floor, and it rises up and it comes up through the solar plexus area to just below your heart. So this first cauldron holding the bottom of your body, envision that cauldron. Take a moment to see what it's made of, what shape it's in. Maybe it has dents and dings and cracks. If so, take this opportunity for that repair to take place. It all happens as you need it to, right here and now, in this cauldron. This sacred cauldron that holds your sacred body. And now, with the repair being done, I want to ask you, if you're comfortable to do this with me, to chant the word Farosna 4 times as we fill up this cauldron. Let your chant be whatever tone, whatever pitch feels absolutely right for you, and you may notice that your pitch changes. All of it is exactly as it needs to be. So as we breathe together and we draw in this divine wisdom into this bottommost cauldron, Farosna, 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 Now we move to the middle cauldron, which begins just below your heart, in that space in your chest that holds your lungs and your heart. And it rises up and moves through the throat and up to encompass all of the sense organs. Take these moments to see what this cauldron is made of. What is its material? What shape is it in? What wounds or dings or knocks has this cauldron taken? And let this cauldron of sacred energy be repaired, be replenished, however it needs to be. And now again, we're going to chant Farosna 4 times, asking the divine to fill this cauldron of our heart and our senses with wisdom. Farosna, 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 Farosna. Bringing our attention to the topmost cauldron, which moves through the top of what we think of as our mind, up through that topmost part of the uppermost chakra, connecting us to the energies above. Take a moment to see what this cauldron is made of. See what shape it's in. See what wounds and bruises it may have gathered, and let that be repaired. And we allow the wisdom of the divine to flow into us as we chant Farosna 4 times. Farosna, 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 Farosna. And now I ask you to chant 3 times, and this first time you're going to ask the wisdom of the divine to flow into the uppermost cauldron, fill it up, and let it overflow. Farosna. And now we chant again, asking the middle cauldron to fill up and overflow and rush down our bodies. Forosna. And this third chant, we ask this bottommost cauldron to fill up and overflow and flow down into the earth. Forosna. And as we are filled from within and from without, take a moment to allow yourself to be held, to be rocked, to be comforted. I am held by the Sacred Mother. I dance and dream to the beat of her heart. Her arms enfold me through all the dark times. She holds me sweet, we'll ne'er be apart. I am held by the Sacred Mother. I dance and dream to the beat of her heart. Her arms enfold me through all the dark times. She holds me sweet, we'll ne'er be apart. I am held by the Sacred Mother. I dance and dream to the beat of her heart. Her arms enfold me through all the dark times. She holds me sweet, we'll ne'er be apart.
Thank you. That was beautiful. So we've come to the point of our circle where we're going to use a talking figure or stick or bowl or whatever you choose to call it. And usually we have a theme, or we just talk about whatever is bubbling up. But this part of circle to me has been so very, very powerful. I've hosted circles for about 8 years right now, and I really saw that how much I catered what I said to who I was talking to. And I think maybe especially as women, but I'm sure we all do it, that I would, take body cues of, no, I'm not interested, or yeah, tell me more, or whatever, whatever they were doing. And I would consciously or subconsciously change maybe what I said. So to me, this is one of the most powerful points or parts of circle is having that opportunity where you feel safe and you can let your vulnerability out and you can really learn who you are. When I think about, the point of this workshop is how do we create these ceremonies and rituals, and it's so lovely because I've Lucy and Molly, I've worked or watched them on their websites and social media and read their books and bought their products, and Dionne and Gina as well, her book, and one of the most important things that I've seen is you have to just do it. You have to, I hear time and time again, I hear women say, gosh, I wish there were circles by me. I wish there was something like that. Oh my gosh. I can't tell you how many times have wished I lived by Molly. Or any of you, all of you. But my answer to that is just start. Just start. That's all you need. Is you need, you know, one or two other people and a place to host it, and then get quiet and listen. And one of the most important parts to me is that you try to balance things so that you are given that opportunity. Again, in everyday life, you find yourself sometimes fighting to speak, or if somebody is very talkative, then you're just letting them kind of take control of the whole thing. And to me, that's one of the most important things about Circle, is that everybody comes to the table and brings something, and they're given that, carved out that time. And I've seen over the years, some of the quietest, most shy, people come up with the most profound things, when they're given that, and just watching them blossom. And it's such a gorgeous, beautiful thing. We all have that inside of us, all of us. And that's what a good mother does, is she encourages you to bring that out. So, and then the last thing that I'm going to say, and I actually debated this because I thought, how do we find authority? And one of the ways, I've been pulling woman rune cards from these. Are Molly Remer made these along with I'm going to Hackanaw Mountain Water, Shackanaw Mountain Water, and I'm pulling these cards almost every day. And I just went through a part of my life where I had a very definitive fork in the road, and a very important fork in the road. And I took one way, and I knew that I was going to get a tattoo to mark that fork in the road. And I was thinking, what am I going to get? What tattoo am I going to get? And as I'm pulling these cards, which I just got not too long ago, this one keeps coming up, the Labrys. And I am not kidding, Molly, and I think I had mentioned this to you, is every other time I pulled a card, this one came up. And my little mathematical geek side of me is like, what are the odds that I'm pulling this card every single time? And and then I'm as I said, I debated this because I'm like, I'm sitting here talking about at the World Parliament of Religions, oracle and tarot and divination cards, and that's kind of crazy. I mean, you're talking about religions that have thousands of years of study and manuscripts and documents, but you know what? All of this has been around for thousands of years too, And so I started looking at, when I kept pulling this card, I started looking at what is a Labrys, and I Googled and researched it a bit and talked to some people and found out that it's from basically ancient Crete, and it was not a war or a military weapon, but it was a symbol of the divine feminine. And it was found on goddesses, mainly predominantly goddesses and devotees of goddesses. And what it basically did was it gave them authority. Authority. So now that's what I got. That is what I went, and I got on my arm the Labrys. And now, when I'm nervous, I'm starting right now. I just moved a year ago from Chicago to outside of Huntsville, Alabama. And I'm starting now a whole new thing of gathering women and starting women's circles. And on top of that, I'm starting to invite in men too, because that's important. We don't, I really feel that's important to invite everybody. I'm back to being nervous. I was doing great with hosting circles because it was old hat to me, and I knew what to do, and I knew all the people, and we were comfortable. But now everything's new. And I looked down on my arm. I've done that this week, yesterday. And I said, this is authority, and it's been given to me. It's not mine. It comes through me. Trust. listen, and then do. I've spoken, and I'm going to hand my talking piece to Lucy.
In women's circles, we tend to speak to where we are rather than in response to each other. And yet it's always interesting to see the threads that emerge in one woman's words that speak deeply to your own heart and soul. And so when Caryn was talking about fear and starting afresh, it's something which most of us know that feeling. We know that sense of being afraid, and our response is usually to try and hold it together. Our response is usually to shut down whatever it is that we're afraid of and hide from it and stay small rather than walk through it, walk up to it, allow it to come through us. And my experience of the sacred feminine, of the feminine, has been one of fear and learning to allow it to flow through me. And to get out of my head and into my body, which can be a really scary thing to do. It's very easy, we get taught to stay in our heads, to stay in thinking rather than in being and doing. And to allow the feminine to flow through us, to flow through our bodies, which has just been wonderful to share with you all here today, is a really powerful practice to me. And I want to share some of my words that are a reflection on what that is, that feminine flow coming through us. And it's from my book, Burning Woman. The deep feminine, the mystery of consciousness. She who is life is longing for our transformation as much as we are. She holds back, allowing us free rein to choose, nudging us occasionally with synchronicities, illnesses, births and deaths. But when we make space for her, she rushes into all the gaps, engulfing us with her desire for life and expression. This is what she longs for. This is what we are for. Experiencing the feminine through ourselves. We simply need to slow down and find where to put our conscious attention. And it is this willingness to look again, this willingness to put consciousness onto our places of unconscious, to express what we have always avoided, which starts the process of unblocking so that she may flow through. Together, we are learning to move from raw emotion and frozen muscles into a flow which emerges deep from within. We are learning to dance our prayers, bleed our words onto the page, laugh our images onto canvas, build our dreams in the world, to transmute and transmit the energy of the feminine through our bodies and out into the world. I am passing the talking piece on to Dionne.
Wow. And those words really embody everything that we had hoped that we'd be able to share in this time together. there's a saying that we are divine beings having a human experience. And that phrase never really sat well with me because it felt like a separation from being human and divine. And I always feel that I'm a divine being and I am a human being, both having an experience together. For me, that feels so much less lonely because sometimes walking this kind of path can feel very, very lonely, very, very solitary. But when we come together in these circles, when we are encouraged to bleed our words onto the paper, to find joy in movement, to bless our bodies, to allow the cauldrons to overflow, to connect with our own authority and allow it to be given to us, accepting our authority. It makes us this life, this spiritual experience, a much more rich and profound experience. Not only just for ourselves, I feel like when we experience for ourselves, it causes a ripple effect and it ripples out to everyone we then come in contact, whether we have children and a partner and whomever it is that we end up serving because of our willingness to say yes to all of that, to being divine and human and having that co-creative experience. Such a powerful, rich experience it is to just being in circle and saying yes to hosting circles too, to stepping up and taking that authority, because as much as I, and this is old hat to me, but as much as it is old hat, each time it's a new thing, it's a new thing, it's a new thing, it's a new richness. I'm not that same person that I was even an hour ago. I'm different. So what is it like to be this person now, having this experience with these people, with all of you? And I have spoken, and I pass my talking piece on to Gina.
This is such an honor to be with these women, to stand in circle, and to hear these women speak about fear and wondering where authority comes from, and finding the call and avoiding the call, and finding the call and avoiding the call. I spent 5 years with all sorts of women I knew asking me when we were going to have a circle. And I kept saying, well, somebody will start one, until it turned out that it had to be me that started it. And we've been in circle together for 21 years. We were continuously holding moons until COVID made it impossible to do that. And I think there are two things about that experience and what you have all shared today that I want to articulate. And one is that this notion of authority has to come from way, 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 way back, because the present world isn't going to give it to us. The present culture, the religions of the book, no matter how much they say that there's balance, it's still the Father's house. And so if we seek the mother, we have to look way, 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 way back. And that's okay, because as Caryn said, these images, this authority has existed for a long time. I used to have a bumper sticker that said, "My goddess gave birth to your God." And I got a lot of dirty looks, and it made me happy. But it is important to remember that we have not simply emerged from a vacuum, that we are the collection of the wisdom of our ancestors. We are the collection of the successes of our ancestors. And I venture to say that every woman here, and probably most of you who are listening to this, have in the way, way, way back, women who wore a labrys as one of your ancestors, women who walked the goddess path as one of your ancestors, and to acknowledge her, to welcome her into your consciousness is a really liberating thing. And the other piece I want to mention is that what I have found incredibly rich in the goddess path is the concept of a reciprocal relationship with the divine. That this is not a relationship of supplication. This is not a relationship of hierarchy where there is some being up there who might put a thumbs up or a thumbs down to my existence. This is a relationship of reciprocity where I connect to the divine, and in my case, I call her she. She connects to me. And we share conversation and communication and relationship. And this extends to me going out and talking to my trees and my animals and the earth that I stand on and the Ramapo Lenape who lived on this land before me and stewarded this land. This is about reciprocity in its truest sense. And with that, go figure, comes authority. I've spoken, and I pass my talking symbol to Molly.
So I too love seeing how the threads weave together, because this little section at the end here, we didn't pre-plan individually what we were going to say, and yet the tapestry is coming together in this really beautifully interconnected way, which is just what happens with a face-to-face circle as well. Like each person, like the circle is more than the sum of the parts. So we each bring our piece, but the circle itself is a living system with its own character and personality and experience of the present moment. And so each person contributes their thread, and it weaves together to make something bigger and more powerful than any one person could create on their own. And so one of the things, part of the immense power to me of walking a goddess-centered path is that it is both ancient and it's new birthed, all in one. So we draw inspiration from ancient symbols. You can see the spirals in the background behind Caryn, and you can see the spirals in the background behind Lucy, and you can see the ancient goddess symbols in the background behind Dionne. You can see Sekhmet in the background behind Gina. Like we have both ancient symbology and language and experience to draw from, but we also have new birthed experiences that come from right now. And those experiences have validity too. And I think as I was listening to you speak, I was thinking about an experience I had quite a few years ago. I've been involved in women's circles and women's spirituality since I was a child. My mom's group of friends held mother blessing ceremonies for one another. They had a coming of age circle for the girls when they were all about 10 to 13 years old, and different things like that. And then I kind of took on that mantle as an adult and continued in my own work in priestessing. And one of the things, we sing a song called Call Down a Blessing often during blessing rituals. And I had a new person who was new to the circle, had been very scarred by wounds of past religious experiences. And she felt very uncomfortable with this notion of calling down a blessing. And she said, but where are these blessings coming from? Who are we calling? What's going on with this calling down a blessing? Who are we talking to here? And to me, it's like, we are blessing one another. The blessings are within us and around us all the time. And when we call down a blessing, we're not calling down blessings from this externally imposed authority. We're claiming the authority to bless one another without needing permission to do so. And so that's been really, that's part of the power to me, is the marrying or the cupping in your hands of both the old and something that emerged right now just because you had a good idea. Like those things can come together. And so Caitlin Matthews and Melissa Raphael have both said similar things. Like the goddess is not an object of faith, but is of immediate self-authenticating experience. So goddess feminists don't have to trust or hope that a goddess exists. We don't have to pray like, are you really there? Will you show me a sign? She is existence and is available at all times to immediate self-authenticating present day experience right here, not going backwards, not searching and scouring through ancient texts to find out if she's legitimate. She is existence right here, right now. And Starhawk also wrote of this, like, and if you've been around in goddess circles at all, you've probably heard of archaeological evidence for ancient goddesses, and then there's attempts from archaeologists to discredit goddess symbols as, you know, Neanderthal porn or whatever, instead of recognizing that if people have been carving goddess figures for 35,000 years, there's probably something to the story. There's probably something here that matters a lot. And so sometimes people will try to invalidate or discredit these types of symbols by saying things like, well, we don't really know what they mean. You know, maybe this was about people, you know, praying to become pregnant or something like that. We don't really know what they mean. And so they will use that as kind of an attempt to discredit goddess religion as not being, you know, real because it doesn't have enough of an ancient background or enough evidence. And so Starhawk says that the idea seems to be that if we can disprove the origin story, we can invalidate our spirituality. But the truth of our experience is valid, whether it has roots thousands of years old or 30 minutes old. It is a mythic truth whose proof is shown not through references and footnotes, but in the way it engages strong emotions, mobilizes deep life energies, and gives us a sense of history, purpose, and place in the world. What gives the goddess tradition validity is how it works for us now in the moment, not whether or not someone else worshipped this particular image in the past. Though I will also say, like I said, 35,000 years of goddess imagery tells us something, whether or not we have an exact description of the exact meaning. We've got 35,000 years, possibly even 40 or 45,000 years going back in time. So, on that note, I would like to close our circle with a poem I wrote that brings those new birthed and ancient threads together. It was a poem that was inspired by Lilith and doing a Lilith circle with my friends this summer, but it has mythic connections that go beyond the Lilith story. So I'd like to invite us all to take one more deep breath together and a brief moment of sacred pause, and then I will go ahead and share that poem with you. So thank you so much for being here and for joining us. We have come from beyond the garden, stories both old and new in our hands. Our breasts are bared, our hips are heavy, and we are willing to show our incisors. Centuries of silencing and suppression have been unable to stick to our skins. Our lapis beads rest easy across our throats, and red crescent moons shine upon our brows. No longer willing to settle for giving birth to demons or destroyers, we bleed all over the pages of history, eat all the apples we please, carve stone into shapes that tell our hearts to remember, and we sing of the forgotten things. Untamed, unbound, our most reliable sacred text is the one we write each day, shard by shard, step by step, bone by bone, breath by breath, side by side. Thank you so much for joining us for this circle and for sharing some of your time and your heart with us. If you go to the divinefeminineapp.com, we have some additional handouts and sharings and teachings to give to you. So thank you so much.